So I'm a bit of a short time this week, so I couldn't really do anything full, so I decided to do a Q&A. Went on Instagram and said, hey, if you have any questions, ask them. And it's really going to kind of mix into YouTube as well, because I got a lot of questions asking about the Canon 60 Mark II for some reason, and it's kind of resurfacing. So I just have a couple quick questions, and let's dive into it. So like I said, I've had more questions about the Canon 60 Mark II recently, and a couple have been, is it still worth the price with the current deal that's going on? And just my thoughts on it about a year later as well, since I've owned it for a large majority of time, but I did get rid of it recently, and I'll tell you why, and it's kind of common sense in a way as well. So is the Canon 60 Mark II right now in July of 2018 worth the $1,600 that it's going for right now that it's on sale, and it includes a free battery grip? To an extent, if you're in the Canon line of cameras that you're not looking to move, and you kind of want a full frame version of like the 80D, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted it. I wanted the full frame sensor, and I really love that it has the flip screen as well. Is it worth it? Sure. Now that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its downsides, which I mentioned in the actual review video, which I'll link down below. But my thoughts a year later and why I sold it. I sold it because I essentially needed to invest that money into the 1DX Mark II, which a lot of you that follow me know that I purchased. So that's one of the main reasons. Now, would I have kept that camera regardless? And the answer is, for YouTube videos and doing video, absolutely 100%. Like I said, the dual pixel autofocusing and the screen are two of the main reasons, and the full frame sensor, that I really bought that camera for $2,000 when it first came out last year in, what was it, August or whatever. But that being said, for photography wise, the main downside for me was the autofocusing system, and it was kind of, I don't want to say lackluster, it's just it wasn't fully reliable for shooting some weddings and events, because I felt it missed a bit. But in everything else, I'd still highly recommend it. It just was a little unreliable at times, and I mentioned that in that video. So the 60 Mark II I think is still a great camera. It's still hard to go against like the Sony a7 III because of everything that it offers, and at the price point of $2,000. But for $1,600 right now, and it includes the battery grip and maybe a couple other things, all depending on where you get it, I think it's still a good deal. So yes, I'd still recommend it. I wouldn't put it high on the list, but it does have outdated technology in it, like even USB 2 and everything like that. So that being said, just if it's what you're looking for, go for it. If not, look into an 80D. But the 60 Mark II I did get rid of for those reasons, as I mentioned. Another question was, on a bright day, how do I expose for the subject and the sky properly? Why are my skies constantly blowing out? It is actually very difficult to do if you don't know what you're doing, because you can't really do it in camera. Now, you can use metering modes to kind of balance out what's going on. And if you spot meter on your subject, you're only getting, what your point is on right here. You're not exposing for the entire scene. But then if you expose for the entire scene, like evaluative or matrix, there's a lot going on, and your camera just can't fully do it. To really do it properly, especially on a sunny or a bright day, you need to learn flash, or at least use some kind of shades. That way you can diffuse what's going on to your subject, or find a darker background. The best way to do it is to learn flash, is to essentially put your subject, standing here, expose for the background so the background looks fine, and your subject will of course look darker, more silhouette-y, but that's when you put in the flash or some kind of light or some kind of fill or bounce, and you can properly, light your subject that way. So the best way to do it, expose for the background, set up your flash, get the power that you need, and start going in there with that, and, bounce that out with whatever settings that you want and the look that you want. But going from there, that's the easiest way to do it. It's not that hard. You just invest a little bit of time to learn to flash and reflectors and everything like that. It should help you out. And this was a comment on my last YouTube video and something I had on Instagram when I talked about ND filters, neutral density, and why are ND filters key in photography and videography, and kind of what does it do. For the recent videos, and this is not a sponsor or anything like that, I tested out the Polar Pro ND circular polarizer and the ND1000 or the ND10, and I did daytime long exposure with them, and that's something that I really enjoyed doing. That being said, ND, neutral density filters, are very popular because of what they can offer and allow you to do. They can allow you to shoot in really bright situations and have a good effect to getting exactly the settings you want for maybe shutter speed, your aperture, lowering your ISO in bright situations. So that way you can be outside shooting at 2.8, have a great depth of field, great bokeh in the background, and you're not limited by what's going on. And ND just cuts the light going in. Essentially they're a filter that you put on your camera, or some cameras even have them built in, and that is absolutely phenomenal. You'll see that a lot on cinema cameras, and even kind of what Sony did with their RX100 Mark V. They took it out of their Mark VI for some reason that's mind-blowing. Having it in camera is a great option, because you don't have to go out and buy anything like these filters or anything. And some of the popular ones are a bit more expensive because they cut down a lot of light and they're most likely bigger. But a lot of there are different variances. I mean, you can get a variable ND that you can twist and get different options. Those are a little bit pricey, but you get more bang for the buck, more versatility. But a lot of us just use a set standard, kind of like a prime version. Like I love ND10 as my sweet point for a lot of stuff, but you can even go deeper. You can get ND15, and I think there's even an ND20, if I'm not mistaken. That might be the big stopper from Lee, if I think so. But ND filters are very key. You can get the look that you want in bright situations without sacrificing anything, your highlights or anything like that. ND filters are very, very key, and you see them used a lot in cinematography, getting that great depth of field in very, very bright situations. ND filters, all depending on what you're working on, super key. So that's it for some of the questions. This is just some of the popular ones. The ND filter and the 60 Mark II have been very popular recently, and I just kind of wanted to knock those out in this video. If you guys have any questions or comments or reactions to those, write those down in the comments below. And as always, keep an eye out, and it's summer of 2018. It's getting hot. We got another month till winter, I guess, because of the weather.